right. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to the Find Your Work episode. I am Darius Harris. I'm the owner of Career Skyrocket. And we're basically trying to inspire people. Like, I'm really looking to inspire people to find work that they love. And today I have Rico Razo, who's one of my old coworkers, and he was one of the first people I thought of when I thought of work and just having a great work ethic and just loving, what you do pretty much. He left like a really big impact on me. I don't know if you knew that.
I
But
didn't, man, but I appreciate that.
you did. You left a really big impact on me, and we'll get more into that like as we kind of get into the interview. But I mean, you're always working. You're the director of the bridging neighborhoods for the city of Detroit. And for as long as I've known you, you've always been working pretty much and helping people. So tell people more about what you do.
Yeah, well, first, I just want to say, appreciate you having me on, Darius. It's been a while since we've seen each other, but through social media, we still keep tabs on each other, and I always remember the days at Sarah Metro. I mean, just helping the youth, man. I mean, that's what it's all about, and I always uh, definitely appreciated your work ethic in the way that you cared for and looked out for our kids in Detroit, man. So
Thank you, man.
the same way you feel, man, I feel about you. So definitely appreciate it. But yeah, that was probably over a decade ago now, and throughout that time, it's been growing like we're supposed to. And have been working in city government the last close to 9 years now, and recently became director of bridging neighborhoods, like you stated. We're currently one of the only municipalities in the entire country running an optional housing relocation program
Hmm.
for residents that live in the Delray neighborhood, part of Southwest Detroit, between I-75 and the Detroit River. And about 4 years ago, there was a deal with the mayor's office, city council, Windsor Detroit Bridge Authority to fund optional housing relocation programs. Some dollars went to workforce development. Some other dollars are going to go to help beautify the area for residents that still want to stay there and conduct some planning studies and all of those things. But we primarily have been offering an opportunity for any family that's affected by the incoming bridge, an opportunity to move to another part of the city. So we work hand in hand with the Detroit Land Bank, identify properties that may meet our renovation budget criteria, and
Mhm.
then offer them to families. Families walk through the houses. They, say, okay, the 3-bedroom house will work for me. I need a 4-bedroom house. So we have different types of houses all over the city. And today we actually closed on our 53rd property.
Oh my.
We fully renovated 53 properties, 100%, and have moved 53 families all over the city. We've had houses on the east side, Morningside, Cornerstone Village neighborhood. A lot of families have moved to Warrendale on the west side. A lot of families have stayed more local around the Southwest Detroit area. So it's been a great experience. I've been with Bridging Neighborhoods for a little over 3 years now, and because of the leadership that we've had, I mean, previous to me being there and then joining forces, we've also taken on home repair all over the city. So we're doing all the home repair around the Fiat Chrysler expansion.
Mhm.
60 houses there. We'll get home repair grants up to $15,000 for roofs and updates to bathrooms and plumbing and electrical and windows. We're also doing that on the Michigan Central Station that Ford is renovating right now in the North Corktown, Hubbard, Richard neighborhood. And we've also retrofitted at this point about 150 houses along the I-75 service drive, 300 feet within the freeway, to help with noise and air pollution. So families who are dealing with diesel emission that's coming into the house, noises from freeway traffic, and then knowing that another bridge is coming, we've been able to do that for 150 houses. We have another 24 houses to do, but that's all brand new windows, noise reducing windows, new furnaces, central air, better filtration, and insulation as well for houses that aren't brick. So we've been pretty busy over the last 4 years, and I don't see it slowing down. I mean, there's a great need for it in the city. Got a lot of old housing stock and a lot of people that are in need. So we'll be continuing to work, man. It's been a joy to be part of it.
That's awesome, man. I had no idea. Like I knew you were doing like some great things, but just listening to you, like that's awesome, man.
It's fun. I mean, you probably see some of the before and after pictures that we put up, but I mean, to do that 53 times, and go through that 4 to 6 month process it takes to, bid contracts out, go through city council to get the contract approved, do all the abatement on asbestos, do the
Right.
lead, dust, and mold test to make sure that the house is 100% safe for families when they move in. And they're moving into a house that we put 80, 90, 100,000 into in some cases. So I mean, I walked the house today, and you would have thought the house was brand new, built from the ground up. I mean, the way our contractors are working. So it's a blessing, man. It's been awesome to see and witness that 53 times. And then we also have another 16 houses under construction as we speak. And I just before I got on here, city council, I just had another 4 houses approved to have renovation start. So, we're gonna have over 20 houses under construction all over the city, which is it's twofold. It's putting families in better situations, but then also you drive up and down some of the blocks that we're working on, and it may be 2 or 3 houses that need to be renovated before that block is fully occupied, and
Right.
we're able to do that. And I talk to all the neighbors when I go out there, and you talk to people that are in their mid 30s, and they're like, man, that house has been vacant since I was a kid. So I mean,
Right.
some of these houses vacant 15, 20 years, and you're able to bring them back to life. A lot of the houses in the city, as you know, 100-year-old houses, but bringing them back to life, and they're looking like they were born in 2020.
That's awesome, man. Like you're empowering like people and their lives and their families and like doing so much. Like that's so awesome, man. I'm happy
Yeah.
to hear like the great work you're doing. So I never learned like your story, man. Like tell me more like about what inspires you to help people. Like how did you have like a when you grew up, did you know that you were always like gonna help people, or did you have kind of like a winding path to get to where you are?
You know, I when you think about this, as we get older, like you don't really put two and two together until you're, in your 30s or whatever.
Right.
And I just always remember because I played sports my whole life,
Mm,
played sports. And when you start looking back at the theme on every team that you played on, it was, you know, leader by example. I wasn't the most vocal person. I didn't scream, I didn't yell, but I would try to outwork everybody.
mm,
And it's contagious. I mean, other people, like, if they see you putting in work, they're going to do it too. I mean, you don't have to
right.
really say much. And that's how I still carry myself to this day. I mean, the staff that I have 11 staff members, and I don't get, I don't micromanage, I don't, do any of that. But they know if the tone changes just a little bit, they're like, oh, okay, he means business. So I look at sports as probably the earliest indicator of helping others, try to achieve more out of life. And
Mhm.
I think a lot of it has to do with growing up in a good household. I mean, my parents were great people. I had a stepdad in my life for 20 about 26 years now, 27 years. So
Okay.
I was blessed. Some people, have their fathers, some people don't. I was blessed to have 2 fathers in my life that played a big role.
Mm,
But overall, I mean, my whole family just, always giving. They
right.
always giving with never expecting anything in return. And I think that's really where a lot of it came from. I mean, you grow up, you're a product of, what you see and what you experience. I think that's what I experienced growing up, is grandparents that were givers and lovers, and
Mm,
aunts and uncles. And I have a lot of aunts, like, on my mom's side,
mhm.
all women that have been role models to me. And I think that generally that motherly
Yeah.
uh, nurturing, and just that love you get in general from moms and aunts, man. It comes through, and that's what you become. So I've been fortunate to have that, and that's been my basis and foundation to how I operate in work life as well.
Huh. There's one situation that we had. Well, I wouldn't even say a situation. There was an interaction that we had a long time ago, and we were still working at Sir Metro, and it was
Hmm.
a question I had asked you. I was like, Rico, have you ever had a time where you're at a place and it just didn't feel like a match, man? Like it just didn't work, or you just didn't do your best. And I think at the time it was like I was at Sir Metro. I was in the right field. I mean, I loved what I was doing. I
Hmm.
was working with these kids, but it just wasn't a good match management, management wise.
Yeah.
I remember your answer to this day. I still remember it. You told me, you said, "Nah, man. Like I did my thing everywhere. There wasn't any place where I was at where I didn't do a good job." And I say all that to say,
Yeah.
you've been through your career now, you've done a lot of more different things. Has there ever been a time in your life where you wasn't fulfilled with your work?
I would probably give you the same exact answer I gave you a long time ago. And I totally agree with you. I think you may love what you do, but sometimes, right, management and policies that are in place don't really align with
Right,
uh, the real work that you want to do. And
right,
and I think a lot of that, especially in the nonprofit world, just comes down to funding and numbers. And it's sad to say, but sometimes people rush to you rush to get numbers, you rush to meet this, all these benchmarks and
right,
everything, and you lose sight of the real purpose and reason of why you're doing the work.
right,
And I think as long as you can try to maintain a little bit of both of that, and that's just in the nonprofit world, that you still have that passion and love for what you do, and you can still reach your numbers. I think at the end of the day, if you lead with the passion and the love that you have, naturally you're going to hit numbers, you're going to continue to be funded and those type of things. But I think sometimes just the stress of that in a nonprofit environment sometimes poisons it. But I still think, and I'll stand by it to this day, the 6 years that I spent there, I mean, were some of the best times of my life, man. I
right.
still keep in touch with some students. I don't know if you remember Oscar Chapa.
Yeah, I remember.
Uh, Oscar, I met him when he was a freshman at Western International High School,
Mhm.
and he currently works on the city council member staff
Oh,
in
man.
Detroit. And end up going to U of M and graduating. And I just reached out to him a couple days ago to check in, see how he's doing, and we're gonna go grab lunch on December 3rd. So
That's
it's
awesome.
those type of things, man. Just seeing some of the kids grow up and see them get married before you do, and have
Right,
kids before you do it. I ain't mad at it. I think it's great, but it's awesome to understand and see where they came from, and to be able to still go out and do their thing and achieve greatness. And one of the students I remember one time wasn't too vocal. Like, he didn't talk a lot, but he was a
mhm.
great kid, and he just always enjoyed being around. And he ended up graduating from U of M Dearborn. He works for a supplier right now, auto supplier. I think he's bought two houses at this point.
Oh, man.
He's on his second kid. He got married, and I remember talking to him one day, and he's like, I can never repay you for everything you've done for me. And I'm like, man, I didn't do anything for you. You just listen. That's all. I mean,
Right,
I tried to spit a little bit of knowledge that I knew, but those things. I mean, you can never put any price tag on that. I mean, no matter how you may get paid in the nonprofit world,
right.
you do it for the passion and love of it. So
Exactly.
yeah,
I still have kids that reach out to me now. I'm back in youth development now. So actually I work for
awesome.
a high school now, and I kind of work as like a college and career coach, and I
That's
love
awesome.
absolutely love it.
See?
And before that, my time in youth development in Detroit, I still get kids now. Oh my God, Mr. Harris, like I can't thank you, enough. And it's like, oh my God, I'm just doing my job, doing what I love.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
going back to what you said, like when you said I did my thing everywhere, I kind of take that with me now because it's like when I'm talking to people that are, they may not need to change their full career. They may just need
Yeah.
to that or like maybe get a new position or something like that.
Yep.
I always tell them that the work you're doing before you find your work, your life's gifts, your purpose is preparing you for that, right?
That's what.
And basically you always want to do your best. That's what I took
Yep.
from my conversation with you that day is do your best, do your best
Yeah.
work, put forth your best effort, even if it's not a good fit. That's kind of what I took from that conversation that day. um
You can never uh, look back and you had any regret, no matter
right.
what happens, or no matter how people look at you. And I always, like I was talking to you earlier about trying to connect the dots on previous jobs or previous teams or whatever you did. I even look at, so right now renovating houses all over the city.
Hmm.
I know these addresses on where the houses are like the back of my hand. I know the city like the back of my hand. I know zip codes like the back of my hand. I was in college. I worked at UPS in the warehouse. It was a tough job. I mean, unloading semi trucks, getting dirty every day, like breathing in dust. Like it was just, but it's something you go through to,
Right.
get to where you want to go. And I got really, really good at understanding zip codes there because we unloaded so many packages.
Right.
And I swear to God, I say, dang, I developed some sort of, I don't know if you call it a skill or not, but now to this day, I know zip codes and addresses at the back of my head.
Right. It
So
helps.
it's just funny. I mean, you take, like you said, you might not like where you're at, you may end up leaving, but you always got to look back and take those wins, like where you gain some skill that you can transfer in the next job. And I think that's what I've always tried to do.
Right, exactly. So, next question I have for you is, do you ever have problems like turning your work off?
It's, I used to be worse about, I used to, let me see how I should say this. I used to be bad at it probably 3+ years ago,
Mm,
because, even working youth development, you're always thinking about like
right,
the kid who has to go home to a household that's not the best.
right,
Um, is going to eat that weekend? Or, I mean, you're always constantly thinking about the welfare of kids. And then you shift to city government, and if you're a city government employee who actually lives in the city, uh, you're constantly thinking on what can I do to better the neighborhood. Or
right,
you drive in and you see like a vacant house and you're like, oh, I got to report that. Or you see illegal dumping, or you see, a stop sign down, or you like all this stuff going on, and you're constantly in the frame of mind of, you know, I got to do that, I got to do this, I got to do that. And when I was a district manager prior to,
mhm,
being the director, I was in charge of an area of 107,000 residents in the city of Detroit. I went from Midtown Detroit all the way south to the border at Fort Street Schaefer. So,
mhm,
you deal with a lot of different demographics, different business districts. So it back a couple years ago, it never was turned off. I was always on, man. So you're like, you leave work, you go to a community event, you get ready for the weekend, you're at community events, you're
right,
volunteering, you're doing cleanups, all that stuff. But the last couple years, I said, okay, it's good to do all that, but you also have to take time for yourself. I mean, at the end of the day, you know how it goes. You can't burn yourself out, because then you'll be good to nobody. So,
right,
it's been good the last couple of years. I just got married a couple months ago, so you know, understanding how the work and turning it off can also affect relationships, not just
right,
significant others, but other relationships with family. So yeah, you get older, you get smarter, you get wiser, and you try to make sure you do turn it off every now and then.
right,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly. I
Yeah.
know that to be true about you. I remember seeing like so many posts where you were actually out there with your sleeves rolled up and helping those senior citizens, man, like,
Yeah.
cleaning their
Yeah.
house, and you would show a picture where it was like, this kind of messed up beforehand, and then,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
you kind of worked with a few other people and got it all cleaned up, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
It
I
was
mean, when you hear a 7-year-old senior who's been in the community for 50 years, and she's like, I'm afraid to go out on my back porch to drink coffee because I don't know what's going to come out of the trees. I mean, it's those type of things, and that's multiply that by hundreds and thousands of residents in the city. And I think we've done a pretty good job over the last, I would say, 8 years at trying to clean up the city. We still have a long way to go, but it's the stuff you always think about. I mean, it's hard to turn it off, but everyone always says they're like, oh, you got a no days off mantra, and I'm like, yeah, and I tell people because a lot of people will take that as, oh, you never take time off, you're always working, and it's not the case. I mean, I think when I tell you about that transition, the last couple of years of turning off a little bit, it means I don't take days off from being a better version of yourself. So it's does that mean reading to your kids every day? Does that mean you reading a book? Does that mean reading devotions? Getting closer to Christ? Those type of things that people do. I mean, that's what I really mean by no days off, man. It's not work yourself to the bone and never sleep, man.
Because your work isn't just your work, right? Your
Yeah.
life is your ministry, right? So you
Oh,
have
yeah.
have relationships with your wife and your family,
Yeah.
who you love, and like you said before, if you don't have any time for yourself, like you're not going to be any good to anyone. So your ministry is your life. So it's not just
That's
your
right, man.
work you do at your job. It's who you
Yeah.
are. You represent yourself and your family to everyone.
Yeah.
So next question I have for you is, are there things that you don't like about your work? Like, are there things that you don't like about what you do?
Not being able to help out as many people as we can is I'd like to, or we'd like to, our team. I'll give you an example. In the city, we have a community benefit ordinance. So if somebody's coming in and doing a big development and get tax incentives and those type of things, at a certain number, you have to have some sort of community benefit agreement. So for example, Fiat Chrysler, their community benefit agreement was, improving some parks, putting in some buffering around truck traffic, giving money for home repair in the community around the plant. And we got, I think it was roughly about $900,000. So 60 home repair grants at $15,000 a piece. The area that we had to do outreach in covered about 5,000 households. So if you can imagine mailing out a notice to 5,000 people saying, we have a home repair program up to $15,000 grant to get a new roof or windows or whatever, and then receiving 1,063 applications, and then having to go through 1,000 applications and say, okay, out of that, these 60 are going to receive a home repair grant. And that's the toughest thing about the job. Because you and I know the need in the city is so great. And most municipalities around the country don't get in the business of fixing up private citizens' houses or doing renovations and all those things. But when you look at the grand scheme of things, if you don't offer some sort of assistance to at least put a new roof on somebody's house, that house is going to end up with a hole in the roof. After a couple of years, the house is going to be vacant, and now we got another vacant house on the block. So what is and then you're going to end up spending $22,000, $23,000 to demolish property. So what's better to do? 50 grand in home repair, 23 grand later down the road to do a demolition. So you think of things in those terms, and it makes a lot more sense because you want to preserve the housing stock. You want to make sure people can live in a safe home. But yeah, I would say definitely is just not having enough resources to impact as many lives as you want. We're impacting quite a few, but not as many as we definitely would like to.
Yeah, I think that's a common thing too. I talk to people, it doesn't matter the field either, even outside of like the helping fields. I think that's the common thing that I hear from people is that they wish they can do more. So I think that's something to think about when you're thinking about your career choice or your, the field you want to go into. Don't get discouraged because there may be some small things that you may not be drawn to or you may not like.
Yep.
Overall, if you can enjoy what you do, definitely go for it. Um, so the last question I would say for you is, what advice would you give to someone? So if someone came to you, they were kind of discouraged and they hated their job, they hated going there every day.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to them?
It's funny. I've had that obviously over the course of how long we've been doing this now, man, like close to 20 years now. You get that question a lot. People always want to bend your ear. They want to get advice. They want to get, they want to be referred to something else. They want to get into something else. And, I would say, especially for those that have a good work ethic and you definitely seeing them be an impact somewhere
Mhm.
is do a self-analysis.
Mm.
What are my interests? What do I see myself doing? What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? They call it a SWOT analysis.
Right.
Because sometimes what you may find out is that some of that blame is on you. I
Yeah.
mean, you may say it's your employer and this and that, but sometimes our own work ethic becomes our own worst enemy.
Right.
And I'll give you an example. A friend who was talking about how he doesn't like where he works. He's been overlooked for a raise and he wants to get promoted. And then the next sentence, he's telling me how he's watching YouTube videos at work. So, I'm like, you got to understand your strengths and weaknesses. But, for those who are looking for a career move, I always volunteer
Right.
somewhere, get a mentor in a field that you may be interested in because you can
Mm.
really pick the brain and understand what it takes to get to that level or get into that field. And then I think just don't be afraid to make a move if you think that's going to benefit you and your happiness. A lot of people, and some people just can't because they have kids or you have the bills you got to pay and you have to stay in that job and you can't take those risks. But I would say don't be afraid to take a risk, but also get a feel for what's out there. And if you don't have a big network, start networking. I mean, LinkedIn is such a great tool, man. We on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram all day long, which you can still network through that.
Yeah.
But if you're really looking at other fields, you go to LinkedIn, you can narrow down your search and message
Right.
people and just ask questions, and that's why people are on there. Um, so I think utilizing the tools that are readily available to you and just tapping into some of those networks are what have always helped me out and helped me refer other people that I know have good work ethics and be good employees for other people, getting them into employment opportunities as well.
Right. I love it, man. I love the some of the key things you mentioned, the work. You're working, like you're not just sitting around and kind of waiting for something to fall in your lap. The idea of not being afraid. I hear that so often, man, where it's just
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
I understand, like you said, people have job, I mean, they have families, they have responsibilities and things like that. But
yeah,
sometimes when I'm talking to people, it's kind of like they're afraid to even explore, man. Like
yeah.
they're not even gonna look into options because they're so comfortable. They get comfortable in their work, they
Get
know their
comfortable.
job,
Yeah.
and then they
Well,
let
and then sometimes they feel like they have to have this loyalty, which is
right,
always good. I mean, obviously you want to have a loyalty, but understand that if you die tomorrow, someone's going to come take your work laptop and already start an HR process to
right.
get your job filled next week. I mean, that's just the realities of things. So, um, yeah, that's it's you gotta understand that. I mean, you can be loyal to a point, but just understand that the loyalty sometimes don't work both ways.
Exactly, exactly. Thank you so much, man. This has been awesome. I think the information you've provided is going to definitely be a help to someone. So I just thank you, and I want you to continue to doing all the great things you're doing, man.
Appreciate it, Darius. And if you have anybody that wants to reach out, I believe you have my cell phone number and email address, but feel free to share it because I'm open to talk to anyone. And like we mentioned earlier, a lot of times our young people, they don't take advantage when they have something presented right to them. I mean, I can't tell you how many networking events we've put on where you've brought professionals, they exchange business cards, and then you don't do anything with them.
Right.
And the whole goal of that is to continue and foster relationships and be able to explore career opportunities. And you know, I'll give my card out to 50 people, and maybe two or three will reach out. And I think if we did more of that at a younger age, we would probably get to a place in a point in a career that we like and love to do earlier than later. So
That's what I'm
uh,
working on, man. I'm working on
there
it.
you go. All right, cool. Well, if you're working with high school kids, man, you ever need me to come talk or get on the Zoom, just let me know, man. I always make time for that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, man.
No problem.